To understand why wrappers came about into being, you really need to go back to 2015. Publishers were increasingly adopting header bidding. They were including header tags coming from multiple exchanges on their websites, and each header tag came with its own unique flavor. Now that caused two side effects. One was a technical side effect and another one was operational. On the technology side, engineering teams were not really involved in the tag setup process in publishers' ad operations teams. Now they were a part of that process. So it took away valuable resources from publishing functions into actually ad operations and monetization kind of functions. The second side effect which happened was ad operations teams were actually very agile. They could go into an ad server, swap a tag out, get a new one in, and test different combinations. Because ad operations teams were lined behind engineering teams, they lost that agility. So wrappers came about to help solve that problem. A wrapper was a container which included multiple header tags from all these exchanges that publishers wanted to work with, and resolved the underlying issues, making the integration process a lot faster. Some of these wrapper tags were open source, like Reboot, and others were proprietary, like Index. I think we've been at the forefront of header bidding and wrapper technology in general. We were one of the first companies to recognize that header bidding was impacting how publishers were able to run their businesses, including things which I just said, right? Like the impact on the engineering teams, how they were able to leverage their ad operations teams. So we built a header tag, a wrapper tag, which was able to simplify the tag deployment process to an extent that a header tag could be swapped in or swapped out within 20 minutes. We provided easy reporting access to publishers and also made sure that other allied services around header bidding were also available in the wrapper itself. The key issue or challenge that happened with proprietary wrappers is that we as exchanges had to spend a lot of time to make sure that our header tag was performant, it was working very well within third-party wrappers as well, which were proprietary, right? So because these were closed solutions, we didn't have transparency into how exactly these worked. So there was a discovery process involved. The rules of the game weren't clear. So there was a lot of explicit bias, so to speak, right? Because the code wasn't visible to us, we had to kind of test different things out in order to make sure that we perform well. And I think the second thing which happens is that there's an implicit bias as well. When new changes happen in a proprietary wrapper, we do not really get an advance notice of those changes. So we are always trailing the technology, trying to catch up, and to a certain extent, these changes keep happening, and we just need to work harder to keep pace. Open source, I think, doesn't have that challenge, right? So because open source is a set of code which is available on a GitHub website, we're able to go there, we're able to see what kind of new changes might be coming up, and as a result, we're able to respond much better as an exchange when participating in something like Prebid, which is open source. Open source, I think, is the best way of demonstrating fairness and transparency in a wrapper, because the code is available on a website. How it works is very transparent to us, so we are able to put our best performing adapter, header tag adapter, in an open source wrapper. That is not the case with proprietary wrappers. We have to, again, go through that discovery process, and sometimes the performance is suboptimal. So in this era of header bidding, where each exchange is evaluated by their contribution to monetization, that can be a big issue for us. So Prebid helps with that and helps solve that challenge particularly. We are really pleased by what Prebid has done for the industry. Prebid gave header bidding scale, actually. Header bidding had been around for, I think, more than 3 or 4 years before Prebid. But it really started catching up in 2015 when Prebid actually helped publishers deploy these header tags on their websites, actually. That level of trust in ad tech had never been there. So I believe Prebid has actually been the driving force behind header bidding, and help publishers get rid of the clunky ways of monetization, including the waterfalls. So now publishers really have credible options which are not limited to the walled gardens. while we're very happy with how header bidding has evolved in display, I think there are a lot of opportunities to help header bidding grow in video, in-app, native, these up-and-coming channels. I think some of that you'll start seeing that in 2018. For instance, in the in-app world, publishers have to go through, again, a very sort of archaic monetization process. They have to install multiple monetization SDKs, which are mediating between each other. So there's a waterfall passing impressions back from one to the other. I believe in 2018, with header bidding around, a publisher shouldn't have to go through that process. So I think in-app header bidding will grow in 2018, and we'll see widespread publisher adoption in that area. The second thing I'm excited about is hybrid wrappers. So you'll see wrappers which are able to perform on the client side as well as server side. So publishers will now have more choices where they are able to run a header tag from their, again, desired exchanges, either on the client side or the server side, depending on what kind of a monetization and latency profile they want for their websites. The third thing which is happening, which we are again looking forward to, is the formation of prebid.org. We are an early member of prebid.org now, and the collaboration that prebid.org is able to foster, I think, is going to help, again, with those channels that I just mentioned, and help with the exchanges coming together and working on solving the issues relevant to video, in-app, and native specifically.